we've made it to the month of August, and that means that we are talking in our 12 powers, we're talking about will. And will is our power of choice, decision, commitment, and willingness. And it includes our innate capacity to direct and dictate and determine. And this is really about freedom for me. This is about our ability to claim our freedom, to choose our freedom. And one of the things that came to mind as I was looking at this topic was Ernest Holmes, who said, freedom is the birthright of every living soul. And what that freedom is the freedom to choose always. So, my topic today is choosing your home. And so, my centering thought for this talk today was from Ellen Davenport. And that was also from the book, the 5 Principles that I'm going to be teaching the class on. So if you really like this quote, you're going to really love this book. And what Ellen says is, quantum science helps us to understand a law of life that until now was simply intuited and practiced by spiritual masters. Not only is there no predestination for our lives, no blueprint or fate, but we are choosing moment to moment what happens to us and for us. We are choosing moment to moment what happens to us and for us. And this is really what we're talking about today. So I called today's topic Choosing Your Home, because I know that for me the greatest choice is to choose how I am, how I be in the world. And so when you think about your home, the home that you live in, it's the place where you wake up in the morning and you go to bed at night. It's the place where you feel comfortable, where you can be yourself, your comfort zone. Really, it is your physical comfort zone. And so likewise, in your mind, your home is that place that you return to all the time. It's that place that is your default when you wake up in the morning, your default when you go to bed at night. It is that place that way of being in your mind that is your comfort zone, the place that you automatically return to whenever any situation in life presents itself to you. So as we're thinking about what our home is, what I would like you to consider for today is that we choose moment by moment and day by day how we're going to set up our internal home. We choose our thinking. We choose our way of being. Choosing where you live in your thoughts and attitudes and beliefs is the basis, really, for how we create our lives. And, you know, there's a lot of scientific study and psychological study around that. And even people who have gone through some really difficult things in their lives have always come back to that idea that I can choose my thoughts, that I can choose my attitude in any moment. And what I'm thinking of right now is Viktor Frankl, who after his time in concentration camps wrote Man's Search for Meaning. And what he talked about was that he had a situation, an experience in his life where so he was in the concentration camps and he was being horribly treated, and he was on a forced march to do all kinds of work. And at one point he remembered his wife. He was newly married like 7 months before, I think, he went into the concentration camp, and he remembered his wife, and he had a vision of his wife in his mind, and he was overcome by love. And he realized in that moment that he could choose to be in that place of love, no matter what was happening, no matter who was around him. And he could choose to see the face of love in the people around him, even the guards who were mistreating at times. Sometimes would give an extra piece of bread, something that they could be punished for. sometimes they would be a little bit kinder in a place and time where that was unheard of. So that choice to recognize love, even in that situation, was what led him to write, everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's own attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And this is where this power of choice is so powerful for us. We use this divine attribute, this divine nature of choosing, of volition, of being able to create our circumstances in our lives. And even when we are in a circumstance that doesn't seem like we've created it consciously anyway, we always have the ability to create our attitude, our perception, our experience of it. Because experience is all internal. There is nothing in my life that I do not experience through my own mind. And I can experience it by telling one story about it or telling another story about it. I could experience it by saying that everything that happened to Viktor Frankl in that concentration camp was evil and wrong and bad and harsh, and I would be right. I would be absolutely within my right to say that, and a lot of people would agree. And yet, he was able to say that there is still kindness, that there is still love. He was able to choose his experience. So we choose our experience in all that we do. Going to our Bible verse for today. From this, I took this from the Aramaic Bible because I really like the translation of it. And it's for it is in God, sorry, let's start that again. For it is in God that we have life and we move and exist. This is where a lot of translations will say, I move and breathe and have my being in God. So also, some of the wise men among you have said, our lineage is of God. Our lineage is of God. We are the divine in form. We are the divine that is bringing itself into form. And so we have all that is within us. And then as we move down the page, I got this quote from Paramahansa Yogananda, from Man's Eternal Quest. We are engaged in an eternal quest for that something else we hope will bring us happiness, complete and unending. For those who have made the choice to seek and find God within, the search is over. God is that something else. And that's where I see this power of choice within us, that we can choose to look outward in our world. We can choose to look for things. We can choose to look for circumstances and people that we feel might complete us in some way. Or we can recognize that we are the divine in form, that we are complete and whole, that we are the divine as we are, right here and now. And there is nothing that separates us from that good. And so whatever experiences come my way, I can experience those things as that divine life. I can see the divinity in all things. And what's interesting about that for me is that I used to call myself a seeker. Back in the day, when I was young and growing up and learning who I was, I thought I was a seeker. I looked at all kinds of different religious ideas. I looked at Buddhism and Taoism and paganism and all kinds of earth-based goddess kind of spirituality. And I looked back at my Mennonite heritage and my roots growing that way, and I looked at all different sorts of things. And when I looked and I looked and I looked, I wasn't finding any more than myself. When I realized that what I was looking for was right here, it was right within me. I didn't need to seek anymore. So I don't call myself a seeker anymore. Now I call myself an inhabitor of my being. I live in who I am. And that's, again, the idea of home, coming back to home. So where do you find your home? Where do you choose to live? There's a movie I watched just recently called Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Have any of you seen this movie? It's a little bit of a mind bender, and it's very quirky. It actually really appealed to my quirky side. So, and parts of it I was like, what the heck is going on? But it was really a fun movie talking about the multiverse. And what it was talking about was that there's all these different dimensions and multiverses where this main character was able to jump into the person that she was in each of these different multiverses. Now, ultimately, through the course of the movie, and I'm not going to tell you the whole plot line or anything, but ultimately one of the things that came out of it was that she had to choose, or that she could choose where she wanted to be. She could choose to be in one of those lifetimes and to really live it and to really love it. Instead of trying to find something in each one of them, she could just choose to be in one. And I thought how much that is like our lives as well. Like, where do we choose to live in our lives? What part of our lives do we choose to live in? And there was back in the 90s, there was a Star Trek series called Deep Space Nine, which was one of my favorites. And I remember watching the very first one when it came out. And in the very first one, this main character, Benjamin Sisko, gets brought into this wormhole where these aliens, who are considered to be prophets to the world that is right beside this area, these aliens are non-linear. They don't have a sense of time. Everything is all the time, all at once. And so as they are speaking with his mind and his memories, they keep bringing up this memory of the death of his wife. And they ask him, why do you live here? And he said, I don't live there. I'm here now. We live a linear existence. That was in the past, and I'm here now. And they say, no, but why do you live there? And that was profound for me. That was before I found Science of Mind or any of the New Thought teachings. That was before I found all of that. And I suddenly had this realization that we can choose to live there. I can choose to live in the bad things in my past that have happened. I can choose to live in those things that felt uncomfortable or like struggle or suffering. I can choose to be there, or I can choose to be here now. And so this was the reminder for me. This movie, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, was the reminder for me that once again, we get to choose what dimension we want to be in. We get to choose what our universe looks like for us. We get to choose how we want to be in our life. Eric Butterworth, some of you know he's like one of my favorites. I just love Eric Butterworth. He wrote, the first step in this process we're calling the art of thinking is to know that no matter what happens in your world, no matter what happens out there, no matter what you read in newspapers, no matter what is taking place around you or to you, you always have a choice. You don't have to be angry. You don't have to be unhappy. You don't have to be worried. You don't have to be fearful. You can choose to think positively or creatively if that's the way you want. So we have this ability to choose. And we hear this all the time. Well, just choose positive thinking, choose positive thoughts. And sometimes it's not quite that easy. It doesn't seem easy. It's simple, but it doesn't seem really easy because sometimes it feels like we just can't get out of that cycle of those negative thoughts coming back and coming back. And so what I want to offer you is a practice that you can take with you into your lives, and it's called inquiry. And it's based on the work by Byron Katie, and she calls it The Work. And this is a beautiful way of just questioning your own thoughts so that you can see if there's another way for you to choose, another idea for you to choose. So the first thing you do is you ask yourself, when you have one of those negative thought spirals happening to you, and you're going over and over and over a situation and you can't find your way out of the negativity of it, you ask yourself first, is that true? Is this thought or belief, whatever I'm making it mean, is that really true? You know, I can think that somebody said something to me and that they must have been really angry and they're so unreasonable and what a horrible person they are. I bet they're evil. I could think all of those things, or I could think, wow, I wonder if that person just had a really bad experience before they came and talked to me. Maybe I could be compassionate. Maybe there's something different going on. Maybe they didn't sleep all night and they barely can string two words together. Maybe that wasn't them being grumpy at all. It was just them being unaware or tired or something. I can create a different story. I mean, we are master storytellers, I always say. We're constantly telling stories about what is happening around us. That's how we experience. So I can ask myself, is it true? And then I can say, well, is it really true? Even if I think it's true, is it really true? Like, how can I know that that is really, really true? How can I be positive that what I think about that person or that situation is actually 100% true? Because it might not be, right? And are you willing to see the possibility that it might not be true? Are you willing to just let that little sliver of light in that maybe there's a possibility that what I'm thinking about that isn't the whole truth? And then you ask yourself, who would you be if you could set down that belief today? How would you be? What would be your home if you could set down that belief? Where would you live if you could let go of that belief or thought or idea right now? And when you let go of that idea, when you just let in just that sliver of willingness to let go, then you can ask yourself, are you willing to let go of the belief that caused you to suffer? Do you choose? Do you choose to change your belief right now? Because as we choose to change our belief, then we move into a different experience. And you know, it changes everything. It changes everything in the way that we respond to the world, and it changes everything in the way the world responds to us, because we are not separate. We're not separate. When I change the energy in a room by coming into that room with love or compassion or peace in my heart, when I change the energy of the room changes. It can't help but change. And even if something happens that doesn't feel like it's a great outcome, I can choose to frame that outcome in a way that makes sense for a better life for me or a better life for that person. I can choose to see it differently. I can choose my experience of it. Our last quote from Divine Audacity, Linda Martellowitz said, "Out of infinite possibilities, I have chosen one. I determine it is mine. I resolve to follow its calling. Then I commit to it. Commitment places me on a particular path. Commitment leads not to random actions, but deliberate, intentional action. And when I make that choice, I make that decision, I make that commitment to be in a different way in the world, to be the better way of myself, to be that highest self, that divine self, and to see that in others, I create a little bubble of peace on it. And that little bubble of peace gets to grow because I make the actions, I take the actions, I move into the world in the way that creates that peace in the world. This is how we begin to create peace on earth. So let's do an affirmation together. If you choose, you can join me in saying this. I choose to set my will and focus on the good in my life. I choose to live in the divine home that is always within me. And so it is. Beautiful. And now our closing blessing. May life bless you abundantly. May grace and goodness walk with you every day. May love and joy expand within you, and may you know peace.